So let's just jump right in. Have you ever looked at a community, one of those groups that's been around for years, just buzzing with life, and wondered, what is their secret? How do they do it while so many others just fizzle out? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain and look at the secrets to building a community that's not just surviving, but actually thriving.
I mean, we've all been there, haven't we? You join a new group, maybe a Discord or a forum, and you're so excited. The first few weeks are amazing, tons of conversation, and then just crickets. It becomes a total ghost town. It happens all the time. And you know what? The reason why is usually right there in front of us.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to tackle that silence. Then we'll get into the real power of conversation. After that, we'll see how trust basically becomes the currency of connection. Then we'll look at a cool twist, how problems can actually be a good thing. And finally, we'll wrap it all up by looking at what it means to be a living, breathing community.
Okay, part one, the sound of silence. This is where we really dig into the root cause of why so many good communities just go quiet.
You know, this right here is such a huge mindset shift. We see a silent majority in a group, and our first thought is, oh, they must be bored, they're not interested. But the reality? It's often something way simpler. They just haven't been given a real invitation to speak. It's not about them being apathetic, it's about the environment not making room for their voice. And this quote just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? Silence isn't a sign that people have nothing to say. It's a sign that the space hasn't been created for them to say it. People are waiting, full of ideas and questions. They just need to feel that it's okay, that it's safe to share them.
Which brings us perfectly to part two. If silence is the problem, then, you guessed it, conversation is the solution. This is all about planting those first absolutely crucial seeds of real engagement.
Think about it. Why does anyone join a community in the first place? I mean, look at this list. They want to learn, they want to grow, connect, but that word contribute is key. People don't just join to be passive spectators. They join because they want to add something, to feel like their presence actually matters. They show up ready to engage.
And that leads to this huge point. Creating that space for conversation, it isn't just a nice little bonus feature. It is a core responsibility. It's the foundational work you have to do to turn a random collection of people into an actual connected community. It's not optional.
Okay, so you've got the conversation started. That's awesome. But how do you keep it going? How do you make it last? Well, that leads us right into part three, the currency of trust. This is the stuff that really holds a community together for the long run. I mean, that's the big question, right? How in the world do you build that deep, resilient kind of trust? It's not some big, flashy event. It's actually something much quieter, much more consistent. Let's take a look at a real-world example. 4 years. Just let that sink in for a second. In the world of online communities where things pop up and disappear in months, 4 years of steady growth, that's like a lifetime. And that number, it tells a story. It tells us that real trust is a long-term investment. You just can't rush it. And this timeline here, it shows us exactly how that investment pays off. Year 1, you have your initial connections. Year 2, you start building some shared history together. But look at year 3, showing up repeatedly. That's the secret sauce. It's just consistency. The small, daily acts of being present, of listening, of caring, that's what compounds over time. Until, by year 4, you've built something solid, foundational.
All right, so you've built all this trust. But what happens when things go wrong? When it gets tested? Well, this brings us to a really interesting idea in part 4. This idea that problems aren't actually the enemy. In fact, they can be an opportunity to become even stronger.
So let's just redefine what we mean by problem. When someone in the community raises an issue or complains, it's so easy to see it as an attack. But what if it's not? What if it's actually a signal, a sign that people are still invested enough to care? The real problem isn't complaints. The real problem is that silence we talked about.
So what do you do? Well, here's a simple 3-step playbook. First, you have to really listen, not just to the surface complaint, but to the core issue underneath. Second, you deal with it openly. No secrets, no sweeping it under the rug. And third, you use that moment to remind everyone what you're all about and why you're strong together. Do that, and you turn a potential crisis into a moment that actually builds trust.
And this quote just says it all. Every single community is going to face challenges. It's inevitable. The ones that last, though, they don't run from them. They face them head on, and in doing so, they become more resilient. They get stronger, not weaker. And all of this leads us to our final part 5, the living community. This is where all these pieces, conversation, trust, and even conflict, come together to create something that's less like a static group and more like a living, breathing ecosystem. This is such a powerful way to think about it. A community isn't a machine you build once and then it just runs forever. It's more like a garden. It needs constant tending, it needs water and sunlight, it needs care to flourish. And you can see that whole cycle right here. On one side, you've got the inputs, attention, care, continuous engagement from the leaders. And what do you get out of it? The outcomes, members who feel heard, who feel respected. When this loop is healthy and strong, the community can pretty much weather any storm. It becomes truly resilient.
So, let's bring it all home. If you remember nothing else, remember these 4 things. 1, silence isn't the end, it's an invitation to start a conversation. 2, trust is a marathon, not a sprint. It's built on consistency. 3, problems aren't a threat, they're proof that people still care. And 4, the best communities are treated like living, breathing ecosystems.
So I'll leave you with this one final question to think about. For whatever community you're a part of, your team at work, your friends, your online group, what's the one conversation you could start right now that would help it become just a little bit more unbreakable?